Between the time when the oceans drank Atlantis and the rise of the sons of Arius, there was an age undreamed of. And unto this, Conan, destined to bear the jeweled crown of Aquilonia upon a troubled brow. It is I, his chronicler, who alone can tell thee of his saga. Let me tell you of the days of high adventure.
Fire and wind come from the sky, from the gods of the sky. But Krum is your god. Krum, and he lives in the earth. Once giants lived in the earth, Conan. And in the darkness of chaos, they fooled Krum. And they took from him the enigma of steel. Krum was angered, and the earth shook. And fire and wind struck down these giants, and they threw their bodies into the waters. But in their rage, the gods forgot the secret of steel and left it on the battlefield. And we who found it are just men. Not gods, not giants, just men. And the secret of steel has always carried with it a mystery. You must learn its riddle, Conan. You must learn its discipline. For no one in this world can you trust. Not men, not women, not beasts. This you can trust.
It takes a lot of courage to admit that you need help. We could actually all use a little help and guidance sometimes to get our minds.
Hello everyone! Welcome to the Gamers Conclave. I hope you enjoyed that little opening. I wanted to really set the mood, you know what I mean? I want to, because I know a lot of people will see this after the fact, so I really wanted to impress upon you. Hey, Mr. Diggle. I wanted to impress upon you the mood, the theme for this playthrough. I've been thinking about it. I was talking to Rachel last night, and I told her, I was like, I really want to do a Conan playthrough of Elden Ring. No magic, no legendary weapons. Only summoned used would be the hounds. A playthrough. I still intend to use NPC summons, like, for instance, like you could summon Nefeli Lu and Rajier and people like that. The other people, because Conan was not a man to ever turn down help. But I want to try to capture the spirit of Conan the Cimmerian with this playthrough, and what that means, above all else, is that what can be done must be done with the hands of man alone. Which is to say, if you saw in that opening, you can't trust gods, or beasts, or women, or men, but steel. Steel you can trust. And that's the whole concept for this playthrough. Now, if you're a fan of Conan like I am, and I've been a fan of Conan for a long time, everything from the original pulp novels by Robert E. Howard, up to Marvel Comics, up to the first Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. Everything after that, when it comes to Conan, has been kind of bleh. Like, I know they did that new movie with that guy that kind of looks like Jason Momoa. I don't know if it was actually Jason Momoa. It may have been, but it was years ago. And while the movie was okay, it really... The only movie that's ever really captured the true spirit of Conan the Barbarian, Conan the Cimmerian, has been, Mr. Diggle's with me today. He's hanging out. He's a good boy. Come on. My trusty hound. My Corgi Valhund. Oh, there him is. Hey, Bubby. You want me to move back so him can see better? Okay. Let me move back. I'm gonna give him a better, he likes to be able to see what I'm doing. Hey. He's very playful. We just got done with a long play session. He's not quite ready to stop yet, but, him's been a good boy. Oh, him got him bone. Get your bone. Get your bone. Good boy. He's got his red ball here, and he desperately wants to play. He's a good dog. So yeah, I really wanted to, like I said, really capture the spirit of Conan with this playthrough. I have done a few things. I have not beaten a single boss yet. I take that back. I did the Wolf Cave, where you find, what is it? No, not the one where you fight the Beastman. I did the one little cave where you get the white stone where you can move Ashes of War. That is the only thing I've done, and that's that little, the first little like troop occupation you come across in Limgrave. I haven't even made it into the castle yet. Now I've explored some of the surrounding area, like I went to the War Master's shack and hit a couple of points of grace just to give myself some room to move around and get ready to get into this Conan build. But here we go. Alright, enough talking, enough bullshitting. Let's get into it, yeah? Let me check the calibration on my, that looks good. Alright. And away we go. So, like I said, now, if you read, if you want to get into Conan, here's how you do it. There are lots of Marvel comics, I recommend you start with the audiobook on YouTube called The Phoenix on the Sword. And then from there, you go to, or if you want a really good start that shows you where I'm kind of doing the theme of my playthrough, is the audiobook. It's like 2 hours, 30-something minutes, 40-something minutes, called Beyond the Black River. And that really emphasizes, like, it's Conan at his prime. You know, he's a warrior who is in service, fighting the Pictish, I forget who it is, I think it's the Aquilonians. I can't remember if he's working for the Aquilonians, the Hyboreans, but he is basically doing mercenary work, helping try to expand into the Pictish territory. And it has Conan in some of his most canon. Like, he's got his Hyborean broadsword, because, for those who don't know, the Cimmerians, the Hyboreans, and I think the Aquilonians all claim to be descendants of the Atlanteans. After the island sank, they went to Atlantis or after the island of Atlantis sank, they went to the mainland. And remember, Robert E. Howard was writing in the 20s and 30s before the science of plate tectonics. So in his prehistory, it's almost like a rated R version of the Lord of the Rings, in that you have like this supercontinent known as Hyboria that is in fact more like a Pangea kind of concept, and it takes place 10,000 years before recorded history. So the territories are like Corinthia, Asgard, Vanaheim, Turin, Samaria, Hyperborea. You know, they're pre-cultures, like where people were divided not just by ethnicities, but by, not just by tribes, but by very ethnicities. Like, you have entire cultures who had never seen a person of a different ethnicity. So in Robert H. Howard's, they tend to refer to one another by their descriptors. Like, they refer to what would be like your proto-African tribes and stuff like that exist in, I think it's Zamir, I think is the name of their area, or Zuram, or Zuranir, or something like that. They describe them as the dark peoples of the Zerminian, or something like that. And then you have the eastern tribes that are all, because like, you don't have defined cultures at this point. You just have, because, these people, it's like just outside of the Stone Age. So you have like the Asgardians, which are referred to as tall people with white skin and golden hair and blue eyes. You have the people of Vanaheim, which are, almost like, they're described similar to the Asgardians, except they have dark hair. Then you have the Cimmerians, who would basically like your proto-Celts. So a lot of people are described, like, you can tell where a person's from just by looking at them. It's not like nowadays where you have mixed ethnicities all over the world. You can just look at a person and almost immediately tell where they're from. So I tried to match the description of a Cimmerian, because they're described as a stocky people with bronze hair and thick corded muscles, are how Cimmerians are described. So that's what I built. And away we go. And this is not a New Game Plus, this is a brand new game. Yeah, I like Lord of the Rings. It's a good story. I like that it's like good versus evil and all that, but there's just something about the way Robert E. Howard did Sword and Sorcery, because he was a contemporary of J.R. Tolkien. He actually came before J.R. Tolkien, if we're being completely honest, because Lord of the Rings was written in the late 30s, early 40s, whereas Robert E. Howard was writing Conan in the... We start off with Call the Conqueror, and then that would eventually kind of like morph into Conan. Although they were two separate intellectual properties, Conan would ultimately become much more popular. Saying about Beyond the Black River, that's where I'm getting this build of Conan from, because it's the time when you see Conan do work. Like he generally has somebody helping him. I don't know if I'm ready for the tree sit. Yeah, he generally has someone helping him, whether it's some damsel in distress he's rescued, some mercenary he's linked up with, or someone else who's in a similar situation. Like there's a time where he got locked up in this dude's dungeon, so he frees this other guy, and come to find out the guy he freed was actually a sorcerer whose powers have been locked away, and then he like sets him free, and the guy's able to use his powers. But yes, Phoenix on the Sword and Beyond the Black River are where I'm getting this build from. And it's also when you meet, and unfortunately he's only in the one book, which sucks, but it's also when you meet Conan's faithful hound, Slasher. He was a farmer's dog. Farmer got killed by a group of picks. So the dog, they rescue the dog, bandage him up, heal him, get him healed up, and then instead of staying with the civilized society, the dog leaves on its own accord, goes into the woods, and just starts hunting picks, to avenge his dead master, and eventually winds up linking up with Conan, and Conan's, at the time, he's riding with I think his name's Zamar or something like that. He's a warrior from the east who's come to aid and make his fortune against the war, against the Picts. And him, Conan, and Slash just wreak bloody fucking havoc on the Picts. And it's a great story. And it's got all the elements. It's got ancient monsters or ancient animals giant snakes and saber-toothed tigers and stuff like that, but it's also got some of the cooler, or it's got some of the cool fictitious monsters like swamp demons and great apes that have wings and things like that. It's just good stuff, man. It's visceral, bloody, gory. It's everything Lord of the Rings isn't. Where Lord of the Rings is very pretty, and everybody has a noble spirit, and there are hard lines defined between good and evil. Conan is more akin to real life, in that, good and evil are a matter of perspective, and people are not very far removed from barbarians. Life is quick and bloody and violent, much like life in the lands between. So Conan is the perfect hero to be brought forth from the waste of Hyboria through his warrior spirit to be called to the lands between. And upon arriving, Conan would learn of the war between the gods and the giants and the ancient ones, and he would see for himself a position and an opportunity. Because Conan was wholly self-serving. He had a chivalrous attitude towards women, but he was wholly self-serving. He was a mercenary and a bloody barbarian. see by my health bar and by my map, this is all I've done. This is it. I went and hit a few points just to, like I said, really, I wanted to give myself just a little bit of free map space so I could do some soul grinding. So that way you wouldn't just watch me like get killed and start over. Oh, I did not mean to hit Bear. I did not mean to hit him. Okay. Alright, we're good. We're good.
Grace's guidance will rid the castle store home.
Alright. I thought I was about to have to fight him. Now granted, I will eventually be killing him. Just not yet. So this build is going to be vigor, endurance, strength, and dex. And that's it. I might raise arcane just so I can get up the ability to find things, so I don't have to keep killing things over and over and over again to find one necessary item that I decide I want. But yeah, basically no intelligence, no faith. I'm challenging myself to do a true Conan build, because Conan despised sorcery, and he was not a fan of worshipping gods. He had a god, which was Kroms, but as you've seen from the beginning, or the intro to this video, which was the opening to the 1980s first Conan movie, the best Conan movie, really the only Conan movie in my head. Yes, there were 2 Conan movies, but they went from a rated R movie to a straight up rated PG version of Conan, and it wasn't good. Conan the Destroyer is good. It's good schlock, but it's not good Conan. Whereas Conan the Barbarian, the first one, oh man, that fucking movie. To me, there are certain movies, alright? Conan the Barbarian, the first one. Excalibur, the movie that came out in the 70s. I'm trying to think of some other, those two, really, those 2 movies particularly. Excalibur, of course, being the 1970s tale of King Arthur. In my opinion, still the best movie adaptation of it, because it follows the tale of King Arthur, the book King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. It follows it damn near in lockstep, because back then they actually respected the canon and the source material, unlike nowadays. And that's probably why I decided to do this. I think it's just nostalgia for the old days, because nowadays everybody wants to put their own spin on it. Like, we can't have the traditional heroes like we used to. Everything has to be fucking saran wrapped, bubble wrapped, and, modernized. We can't have a big strong guy who has a big sword, who slays people and beds beautiful buxom women with long flowing hair and rippling muscles and steel and blood. No. We have to have a hero who's in touch with his feelings and thinks about the things he does and considers the greater consequences of his actions. No. I want a barbarian swinging a fucking broadsword, cleaving people in half for the sake of victory. Welcome to the Gamer's Conclave. Man to slay. I've had one conversation with Melina, and she did her whole, I'll give you this horsey and all that. I talked to Ronnie, because that shit just happens. You can't really control when it happens. It just does happen. I'm using Wild Strikes, because when you do read the books and get into Conan, that's how he fights. Like, he defends himself, sort of, but usually his defense is just a crazy offense. So yeah, he used Conan's signature weapon was a Hyborean broadsword, which was actually an Atlantean broadsword or longsword, sometimes referred to as a great sword. It's basically what my character's holding. And I wanted this one specifically, so I had to go grind. I had to find a knight. Luckily, there was one just by the. That's why I had to go to the War Master's shack, because there's an area with a knight there that has this sword. This is the what is it called? The Knight's Great Sword, and it has that quick recover attack. Instead of slamming it into the ground, he whips it around like that. Which, when you read Conan, that's how Conan fights. He's got this broadsword that he just whips around real fast, and he swings it so hard he just cleaves men in two and stuff like that. And like I said, I think I talked about it last time, Robert E. Howard was also a contemporary of H.P. Lovecraft, so there were a lot of things from H.P. Lovecraft that made their way into Robert E. Howard's writing. That's why I like Phoenix on the Sword, I'd say is a great place to start, because he fights a lot of, or at least a couple, he fights like eldritch monsters and shit in that book. It's great. And the Hyborean on YouTube does just a phenomenal job of reading them, like an audio dramatization, if you will. And we have felled our first, technically second boss. Third, if you count the guy you encounter in the, yeah, I didn't want to make you guys watch me do the whole, you start off in the graveyard, go to the combat tutorial, all that shit. I did all that already. I tried to skip the stuff that would, kind of kill the old Conan vibe. Because when you think Conan, this is Conan, right here. Huge sword, rippling muscles, covered in blood. I just wanted to see how much damage my hands did. Clearly not enough. But yeah, the reason I wanted to fight that Beastman first is just kind of to prove to you that I haven't done anything. I haven't cleared the first cave. Well, I just did clear the first cave. I think you know what I mean at this point. I'm just gonna play the game. Thanks for hanging out today, guys. And gals, and all the happy peoples that come around. folks, I think is the colloquial term that's most commonly accepted. Thanks for coming out, folks. Personally, I like calling you adventurers, brothers and sisters, in arms. Warriors. I don't know why I'm killing the birds, I don't even have a bow yet. I intend to use a bow. I will. Conan was known to use a bow. The armaments, the canon armaments, I got chronological and canon mixed up there. The canon armaments of Conan are shield, broadsword, axe, and bow. So that is what I will be using. Now, Conan often disparaged people for not wearing armor, but that was later in his life. As a younger man, Conan didn't wear armor. So if I find armor that matches the ideal of what Conan would wear, which the most armor he, depending on which book you read, like, I forget what it's called. I think it's like Beyond the, no, there's Beyond the Black River where he just wears like a chainmail tunic. But then there's another one after he becomes the king of Apollonia. You know, a man in his late 30s, after he becomes the king of Apollonia, he starts wearing like full plate black iron mail. But I'll be honest, that's probably my least favorite version of Conan because he's an old man. And the older Conan got, the more armor he would wear to make up for the fact that he can't just shrug shit off the way he could when he was a younger man. So for this playthrough, I'm trying to do an idealized version of Conan in his prime, which he often didn't wear armor, so he could be fast. Conan would rather just step out of the way of a hit than, like, take one, but he would carry a shield, especially if he knew he was going to be fighting a lot of people. But he usually began the battle with the shield, and by the end of it, it was in splinters on the ground. So to kind of roleplay that, I will only be using this shield. This is the only shield I plan on using. This is the only sword I plan on using. I'm going to replace this with the Highland Axe, because the Highland Axe is more true to the type of weapon axe that Conan would have carried, although this battle axe is also, and then a bow will go right here, and that's it. And I will use talismans. I do intend to use talismans, but they will be talismans that boost basically health, stamina, strength, and dex. I haven't decided if I'm going to summon in other players yet or not. In my head, I don't know how I feel about it, because Conan never asked for help, but he would accept it if it was offered. Well, no, that's not true. In Beyond the Black River, he actually puts together a crew of 12 men. He gets ordered to go and perform a strike on the Picts because they have this sorcerer who summoned this. He had the ability to summon like beasts of legend, like saber-toothed tigers, giant snakes, and stuff like that. And he could also enforce his will over. They call them demons, but what they are is eldritch horrors from like the mind of H.P. Lovecraft. And he fights a handful of that stuff in Beyond the Black River. And like I said, that's also whenever he has his dog with him, Slasher. So, because of that, I will use the summons of the wolves, because Conan did have faithful hounds. But that's it. Ain't gonna cast no spells, ain't gonna cast no rituals, no healinses, none of that. Just, well, I mean, I'll use this the blast for healing, because Conan didn't trust magic. Like if you were like, Conan, I'm a sorcerer, his most common reaction would be to spit on the ground at your feet. that's the kind of person Conan was. Sorcerers and witchcraft. Give me a sword. There was nothing in this universe that steel can't cut. And because he has an Atlantean sword, that is true. Because it's actually I forget what book that they tell you about, but his particular sword is actually made of meteorite iron, which is iron that has been it's from space, so it's been bathed in unfiltered cosmic radiation, so it can actually wound supernatural creatures. The sword itself, it's not because the sword itself has any magical inherent properties, it's because of the kind of steel it's made from. Kind of how, like, cold iron in ancient Celtic mythology, a lot of the Picts and the Proto-Celts and stuff would have axes and knives of cold forged black iron, which is when you just take a big hunk of iron and, like, shape it and stuff without ever tempering it or heating it touching it with heat, and a piece of iron that was cold forged into a weapon can harm Fae. It can cut fairies and elves and shit. Like, it can actually hurt them. Whereas an alloyed metal cannot. And kind of like, and this is why we talk about unalloyed gold in Elden Ring. The unalloyed gold can stave off the scarlet rot because it is a pure metal. That's why Mikola is the unalloyed godchild. It's about purity. Same concept as with the Picts and the cold iron being able to hurt Fae. So in my mind, this weapon here is my Hyborean broadsword. And so yeah. If you're watching, thank you. I hope you have fun today, because I plan on having fun today. Saturday Night Slashes got a little heavy because of the things that happened, so I wanted to do another stream, a little bit lighter attitude, a little bit lighter mood. Queen Rachel kind of called me out after the stream. She was like, you got really dark and disturbing the other night. And she's absolutely right, and that's why I love her, man. She don't let me she don't cut me no slack when it comes to shit like that. And that's good, because that's what you need in life. You need someone to hold you accountable. I know we've talked about how to identify a person that wants to help you and a person that wants to harm you. A person that wants to help you will hold you accountable without passing judgment. Now, sometimes you need to tell a person the truth. Like, hey, that was a real shitty thing you did. But Rachel loves me, and she was able to, and she kind of, talked to me like, hey, while we had fun playing the game, that beginning where I kind of like went off on a little bit of a rant, got a little bit heavy-handed and real dark, and she said I came off as dark and menacing. And after thinking about it and watching it, she is correct. Now, you have to understand that a lot of what you see as Lord Joshua is a character. And I think what happened is I let a little too much of my raw, real emotions kind of shine through what I mean to be a character. So I will try to not get so intense about real world shit on this channel, because we all know there's enough. Oh, damn it! There I go. I knew they were gonna get me. We all know there's enough terrible shit in the real world as it is without my fucking boomer ass adding to it. And I know, just in case you're new to the channel, I call myself a boomer, not because I'm old, because I'm fucking loud. I boom. Everybody I've known me in my entire life tells me that I have what you call a radio voice. And partially because I was in the army, I just naturally project my voice. So, yeah, Rachel can tell you. Like, when I get going, I don't speak, I fire my voice at you, like a cannon, so. Woo. Strange days, ladies and gentlemen. Strange days. Conan was also a master woodsman. That's where most of his lore revolves around, is the fact that he is literally a master ranger. Like, he was a ranger before the concept of, as we call rangers. When you think ranger now, you think like Strider from fucking Lord of the Rings. But the first character to really describe himself as a ranger was Conan. And like I said, that goes back to Beyond the Black River. I would recommend that's just where you start with Conan, is Beyond the Black River. Let me level up before I try to fell a giant. Or a troll. It's not actually a giant. I don't know if Conan ever faces a true giant. He fights plenty of trolls because, so Conan, it explains a lot of stuff too. Like, Conan fights trolls, but when somebody's like, "Is that a troll?" He's like, "It is what you call a troll." But then he tells them what it really is, which is a great ape. It's like a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot. Speaking of Bigfoot, I don't know if I should talk about that or not. So I want to hunt Bigfoot, but I don't mean. But when I say hunt, I mean literally hunt. I don't mean with guns. I'm thinking shield, spear, axe, and a bow. I told Rachel she can. Rachel was like, "I'm going to have a gun," because what we've been playing with the idea of going to some of these places where Bigfoot is known to be sighted a lot and hunting him. Because personally, I want a Bigfoot suit, and what I mean is I want a suit made out of Bigfoot, because I cannot imagine a better fitting pair of pants. So, that being said, I kind of want to take it upon myself to be the first man to ever fell, or the first man in modern age to fell a Bigfoot, which is to say, to hunt a Jotun or a troll. Because that's what we would have called it back then. Don't think when you're going to read Conan, you're going to read about this legendary epic hero who can't be stopped. There are plenty of things that manhandle Conan. Plenty of things. But he gets thrashed, he gets bit, he gets cut, he gets wounded almost into the point of death. Oftentimes, like several times, surviving by sheer chance. Or because he had an ally that he was unaware of. Some people refer to as plot armor, but Conan has very little. He doesn't have plot armor like fucking Aragorn from Lord of the Rings, you know? He doesn't fall off of a cliff and miraculously survive without a scratch on him. No, Conan falls off a cliff, he's like breaking a handful of bones and laying in the woods for a few days trying not to bleed to death before he's finally strong enough to move again. Talking about this whole Bigfoot thing. Me and Rachel were talking about it, And she was like, well, what do you think the laws are regarding that? Well, here's the thing. Funny thing that, you see, there are no laws regarding the hunting of Bigfoot. Because that would mean that a court would have to admit that Bigfoot's big feet are real. And since there are no laws governing the season, the time, or the nature of Bigfoot, that means that I can walk my happy ass out into the middle of the woods with as many primitive weapons as I want and hunt Bigfoot all year long. And can't nobody tell me a damn thing. The only real law they can pass laws about like what weapons you can carry based solely on the time of the year and the season. Because I can say, oh, I'm hunting Bigfoot, and they're like, no, you're not. You're out here to kill deer. You know, it's like, well, to prove that I'm not out here to kill deer, I have not brought any guns. Rachel has a revolver to protect herself with from a Bigfoot. I told her we're gonna get her one of those judges. It's like a revolver that shoots. God damn it! It's a revolver that shoots shotgun shells. So I told her we'll get her one of those so she can have like the Bigfoot equivalent of a get off me gun, to where if like I start getting pummeled by Bigfoot, she could run up with that thing and just. But well, no, she wouldn't save me. I would have to. She would have to let me get pummeled, but she would be able to get away. Is the point? She would have something that she could just point at Bigfoot, pull a trigger, and hopefully wound him bad enough that he'll run away, so she can, you know, either drag my broken body out or go find help. But I don't want her to get hurt, so she will be packed light and equipped with all the modern resources that a person needs to, you know, survive. Whereas I, on the other hand, will be wearing my armor, carrying an axe and spear and shield. And when I encounter Bigfoot, I will fell him with honor, or I will wake up in Asgard. To me, that's a win-win. You there, soldiers. This thing up yet. Okay. Now, what I'm trying to decide, I should really unlock the rest of this area first. Caitlin's way over here, so we're gonna get this whole area, get it good and explored before we go into Stormvale. I want to try to. I'm not necessarily trying to speed run or just get through it really fast. But I would like to, I want to be thorough. I'll say it that way. Oh, I need to level up the sword first. Stay hydrated. It's hot. there is a sickness to the east, the lands of Canaan. However, Lingrave still has much territory to explore. That's my Conan voice. That's how he sounds in the books. For those who are curious, this is what a troll, a lesser giant, looks like before they are. So here's my theory. All right, they put these fucking pumpkin heads on the giants to make them go crazy, and then when they die, that's when they put the magic stone in them that brings them up from the dead. Because the big things that, like, the giants we fight normally, those are undead creatures. Those are almost like fucking golems. In my opinion, in my humble opinion, strictly from what I have observed. Because their chest cavity is big and empty, and you can see that there's something up in there.
Oh dear. Yeah, I'm terribly sorry. Are you here as a customer?
That depends. What do you sell? Poison bone?
I must apologize. I'm afraid I've...
I'm also kind of trying to role play a little bit while I play this, you know? If you were exploring, you wouldn't just run around with your sword in your hand. I mean, in the Havamal, Odin talks about using a sword as a walking cane, because he's like, what good is a sword in its scabbard? But I feel that's, while there is a lot of sense there, I think that's meant to be more of a metaphor than an actual, like, because even back then, if you were some dude just walking around with a sword in your hand, that'd be like walking today. That would be the modern equivalent of walking around with a loaded gun in your hand. And just kind of like, just casually, like, using it to, like, move sodas as you're trying to, like, get to that one root beer in the back, you know? You pull your gun out and you start sliding them. Like, let's just say you'd make people uncomfortable. I'm trying to remember what it's called. There's a story. I can't remember what it's called. It's like something like the old gods of the north or something. And like Conan fights an entire fucking army of undead. He's like fighting. It's the Asgard. It's the Asgardians and the people from Asgard called the Aesir, and the people from Vanaheim called the Vanir, I think. And they are at war with one another. And of course, you know, the leader of the Asgardians is would ultimately become known as Odin. You gotta remember, this is 10,000 years before any form of recorded history. It's kind of like Lord of the Rings in the sense that there's an entire culture that rises up and then is lost, and then civilization kind of starts all over. And it happens like 2 or 3 times, because there was an age before the Hyborean Age.
I'm known as D. I hunt down those who live in death and weed their death root. Heed my warning.
Nope.
The village here has been touched by death. And worse yet, it is home to a mariner. If you value your life, then go no further.
Also, if you when you're making your character an Elden Ring, if you take the body type Wanderer, that is straight up Conan. Like if you read or listen to any of the audiobooks or anything by Robert E. Howard, the person that they have designed, down to the fact that it's dark hair with blue eyes, it is straight up Conan. It's like, I'm gonna make a Conan character. Let me see if these pop. Well, that's Conan. You know, I made very little. I changed the haircut, which I'm gonna change back, because I gave him the chopped front look. If you go watch the old '80s movie, they all have that fucking haircut. I'll show you what I mean. this haircut. That is the Conan haircut. I'm gonna switch it to the other long hair just because Rachel was making fun of me. She was like, "Oh, I've never seen that haircut on a boy before." I was like, She knows how to get a rise out of me. I love her so much. But yeah, if you go back, watch, and it's funny too because in the original Conan movie, James Earl Jones, the voice of Darth Vader, plays Thulsa Doom, who is a combination of two different bad guys from the Conan world, the Conan literature, and it's based primarily off of like his powers. Thulsa Doom's powers are based off of the main bad guy from Beyond the Black River, and his position, how he leads the snake cult and all that, is based more off of the main bad guy from the game Conan Exile. I can't remember the names because their names are so complicated. They all, like, except for Conan, every other character's name has like 5 fucking syllables. Cum Slasher. Intend to craft and use crafting items because, well, Conan did that shit too. Like, he would fletch arrows. He was not above using everything to his advantage. I mean, all the way down to like throwing dirt in your eyes. Conan, he was not what you would consider to be an honorable fighter. He'd straight kick you in the groin, throw dirt in your eyes, and then hit you in the fucking head with a fucking his sword while you're trying just to like get the dirt out of your eyes to see. He was not he'd sneak up on you, all that kind of shit. He's more of an anti-hero than anything else. Very loose morals. He was a man of conviction, not morality, if you understand what that means. He had certain beliefs that he held as tenet, and then everything else just whatever about it. What does that mean? Basically what that means is that, like I said, he was chivalrous towards women, like you do not harm women, no matter what the situation is. You never raise your hand to a woman. He didn't believe in torture. He didn't believe when he finally does become the queen of the king of Aquilonia. He never takes a queen. He has many what do they call them? Concubines. He has many concubines. He never takes a wife. Never takes a queen. But he also he's like the fairest king Aquilonia has ever known.
What say you?
Like, he changes up because the king he
Very well.
dethrones
Show me
is
your
it's like a miserly, evil
I've marked the
despot
location
who
for you.
basically keeps the people
Of
in a state of
hidden
perpetual
It will lead you to Garank, the beast clergyman.
poverty and strife. Whereas when Conan as his nature, Conan literally strangles the motherfucker on the throne, and then takes the crown for himself. And then, the king's knights, once Conan kills him, they immediately join Conan. They're like, oh my god, I'm glad that fucker's dead. And they immediately join forces with Conan, and they rout all the loyal despots and cruel taskmasters and shit that the king had installed. They get rid of all of them, and he basically ends the concept of taxes in the city, except they tax people, they tax foreigners that come into the city, and and they do instead of taxing, it's more like tithing. They don't have a set amount; you just give what you can afford. And he allows free trade without taxation, which just immediately skyrockets Aquilonia to the most wealthy and powerful kingdom in the land. To where whenever they try to unseat him, and that is where that's what the story of the Phoenix and the Sword is about. It's after he becomes king. It's kind of one of those things where it's you jump with the Phoenix and the Sword, you jump way ahead in Conan's timeline, and then the next story after that, Beyond the Black River, regresses back to Conan's origins. So it's Robert E. Howard, he gives you the meat and potatoes, and then whenever you go back, he gives you the dessert first, basically. He shows you Conan at his height of power, and then with the next story, shows you Conan in his prime as a barbarian. Because I think the first time Conan takes a life, I think he's only 15 years old. He gets he's part of a hunting party, and he gets captured by Hyborean slave traders. And because the Hyborians themselves are as a race, they're becoming because they're the direct descendants from Atlanteans, so their bloodlines are thousands of years old. They're ancient by prehistory. We're talking 10,000, like I said, 10,000 years before recorded history, and their bloodline's already ancient. So they're not even they're closer to what Newman are in this game. They're they're taller. Their skin is unnaturally pale, almost to the point of being chalk white. Their skulls are elongated, kind of like how you see some of those crystal skulls. They have the stretched out heads, and they have strange and unnatural abilities, which you could call psychic abilities. The abilities to move objects without touching them and shit like that. The thing is, but for all their power, they're all hundreds of years old. They can't have children anymore. The women are completely barren, and the men are going infertile. So they have to find basically surrogates, and the only way that they can create more of them is they create this potion that they can drink, and it allows them to breed for a short period of time. So they have to go, but they can't breed with each other. So they have to go and capture people and use slaves as basically because they're genetic. They can't breed with each other because their genetic pool. There's no diversity anymore. They're all related to one another. So they have to go. You get what I'm saying? So they have to go and capture slaves and used them to create more Hyboreans. And Conan gets taken as a 15-year-old, and that was a fucking mistake on the Hyboreans' part. And it ends with him getting his hands on that ancient Hyborean broadsword, which is actually an Atlantean broadsword, which is made of meteorite. So, Conan doesn't know this at the time, but he would later learn all this and realize that's how come he's able to, like, you know, this fucking creature that's like half immaterial because it's some eldritch being that's been summoned from across the stars by this fucking sorcerer who leads this fucking tribe of cannibalistic death worshippers. And their demon monster runs upon him and he just hacks that son of a bitch down. Well, actually what he does is stab it in the groin. And because the sorcerer that's linked to the space monster, space demon, if you've seen Conan the Barbarian, the PG-rated movie, it's that whole scene where the dude comes out and it's the mirrors and all that shit. This is what that's based off of. So this thing attacks Conan, but it takes place out in the middle of the woods. This thing attacks Conan, and you know, Conan being who he is, you know, he's too. The way they describe it, I think the way they say it is he's of too simple a mind to experience existential dread. So where men of higher civilization know the complexities of fear, Conan knows only anger and fury. So when this fucking thing attacks him, whereas me and you would be afraid, he just gets mad and fucking starts hacking at it with this sword made of fucking meteorite that, whenever he wounds the creature bears no mark. Like, he's like swinging through it. But the sorcerer back in the village that's controlling it is getting like gashes all over him, and he starts like flopping around, and Conan just refuses to fucking give up. So he just keeps going at this thing, and he starts to notice that, like, even though he sees no damage, he is very clearly hurting it. And so in his mind, well, how do you take something like this out in one hit? So he just stabs it right in the groin as hard as he can, like puts the whole length of the blade up inside that motherfucker. And the dude that's controlling it, like, it describes him just going fucking ape shit back in the middle of the Pix village. Like, he's rolling around, like, back arch, kicking, like, spitting, like, just vomiting huge amounts of blood and everything. All the Pix are freaking the fuck out because this lizard that's been, like, united, this wizard that united all these tribes, all of a sudden is going through these convulsions, and these huge wounds are just appearing all over his body and shit, and next thing you know, he dies. And then that breaks the confidence of the Pix that he's gathered, and they fucking start scattering, and their war front falls apart, and the Aquilonians are able to overcome their number. And so that's where that story kind of ends. But the shitty part is, and I'm gonna make you feel bad now, and I'm sorry, but his dog and, like, one of the few friends Conan ever had die in the last battle because, like, their fort gets overrun by the Pix. It's like the Pix and a bunch of, like, leopards and tigers, gorillas and shit that this sorcerer's controlling. They overrun the Aquilonian fort, and then from there, Conan and I think his name's like Balthazar or something like that. They and Slasher, his dog, they leave the fort because Conan's like, this fort is going down. Anyone who stays here is mad. Is a dead man. So they head north. Or no, they head back east because they're expanding westerly. And Conan was basically hired by the Aquilonian forces to act as a ranger along the the war front because the whole area is like heavily forested and stuff. And like I said, the dude that's with him is from now when I say he's Eastern, he's not from like Japan or China. He's like Middle Eastern, and he's but they refer to him as being from the East because you can't go any more west than where they are. So he comes from land of plains and stuff like that, and he's used to fighting people like on open ground and shit. But he had to learn woodcraft on the front lines of the battlefield, and he winds up like ultimately becoming friends with Conan, and Conan kind of like takes him under his wing, and at the end of it, they're escaping this fort, and there's just so many pigs chasing them that they know that they're not going to get away if they can't slow these fucking pigs down. So Balthazar tells Conan, he's like, hey, you go. You're faster, you're stronger, you can make it on your own. You go. And whenever Conan takes off, Slasher stays with Balthazar. Because aside from Conan, where Conan treated Slasher as an equal, as far as like a warrior, Balthazar treats Slasher like a good boy. You know, he gives him good boy pets, belly rubs, and all that. And he's the first person to ever show Slasher that kind of kindness after his owner. So when Balthazar, I know I'm butchering his name. I don't think it's actually Balthazar. It's like Balthazar or something like that, or Balthazar or something like that. When Conan goes, Slasher stays back with that dude, and Conan gives him his shield and his armor and his axe, and the only thing Conan keeps is his girdle, which is like a big, one of those big leather belts with big studs on it and shit, and his loincloth and his broadsword, and he just goes. And Balthazar throws on the fucking gear, and it describes Conan just hauling ass, and then like the next 5 or 6 paragraphs is Balthazar or Zahara, or it's like something, I know there's a Z in it. Him and Slasher just taking on this fucking wave of picks. But where everything he lacks in woodcraft, he makes up for as a swordsman. Which leads me to believe that he was kind of like, I don't know if you've ever heard the term of a whirling dervish. But those are the guys that they were called whirling dervishes because of the type of sword fighting they did. They would carry 1 or 2 scimitars, and they would basically just stay constantly spinning in fast circles, just round and round and around, to where like you're constantly just like just constantly coming at him. And he had, I think, an axe in one hand and a short sword in the other. And fucking the way they describe Slasher is he's like, a huge fucking dog that comes up to like your waist. Like his back is at like would be at a normal man's waist. He's this big old animal, and yeah, it's a glorious fucking battle. I'll just say it like that. But ultimately, they get overwhelmed. But they're talking about it with Conan because they tell him it's like the only reason they were able to get to the fort in time and able to get reinforcements out in the field before the Picts started overwhelming their rear guard is because this dude and this dog fought like 100 Picts by himself and killed like 70 of them before they were finally overwhelmed. And Conan's like, we don't know who this warrior is. And Conan tells him, and he goes in this whole spiel about how good a person Balthazar was and how loyal a companion Slasher was. And like, it's one of the few times you see Conan express like actual deep regret and sorrow at the loss of a comrade, because he gets real upset when he finally learns their fate. And it describes him like making a mess in the bar. He fucking like the cup he's drinking, he shatters it on the ground. And basically swears swears to drink an entire keg of ale in their honor. And, yeah, and the book ends with them having this, like, massive celebration that they were able to, defeat the pigs, because the group that came swarming up from the fort that they had just taken to try to hit to their, the rear guard, and, the rest of the army, and try to catch them unawares, they managed to get, you know, Conan's able to get them there, get them roused, and get men out in the field, to where instead of catching them unaware, the pigs slam into the heavily mailed, like, the troops that it takes a while to get there, because it's like dudes in like full plate mail with huge shields and lances on horseback, you know, as opposed to just like footmen and woodsmen that make up the forward fort position. And they're able to prevent the Picts from overwhelming their forces. They claim victory, and because all the other Picts are freaking out because their sorcerer king just died like the most horrible death imaginable, you know, like, they're all freaking out. They lose the will to fight. So instead of just waiting, the fucking Aquilonians charge. And they just charge and slam into the fucking, the Picts. And they basically do to the Picts what the Picts had intended to do to them. And they wind up pushing them all the way to the sea. And those that don't, and it basically describes those that don't die on the blades of the Aquilonians drown in the sea of, I forget, he says the name of the sea. He's like, all those that don't die on the blade of the Aquilonians drown in the sea of such and such. And that's when he goes to the spiel. It's like, I will drink a whole keg of ale in the honor of this man and this hound, for never a more loyal friend there was, and all this. And yeah, it's a real bittersweet ending. But that's what Conan is. And that's why I like Conan, because it's visceral like that. People die a lot. Like, characters that you get attached to, they might even make it, like, through 2 or 3 books, but the only one who usually winds up surviving the whole ordeal is Conan. Because he's just something different. Near superhuman is a good way to describe it. Whew, so that was a lot. Welcome to the Gamers Conclave if you're out there. Thanks for hanging out. I love to tell stories, man. A lot of Conan tales can be considered cautionary tales. I refuse to think that who's the guy that built this? Miyazaki? Is that his name? I refuse to believe that he himself is not a fan of Conan-style sword and sorcery, because a lot of shit in this, if you read some Robert E. Howard, now understand, Robert E. Howard was a man of his time, just like H.P. Lovecraft. He's nowhere near as bad as H.P. Lovecraft, but sometimes his writing can be a little, insensitive, we'll use that phrase, because I won't say racist, because it's not overtly racist. He does not take people's feelings into consideration when he says things, and we'll just leave it at that. But he does not disparage anyone because of their race. Whereas H.P. Lovecraft, he was very much a contemporary racist. So, if if you're going to read H.P. Lovecraft, brace yourself, or look for, that's why I prefer audiobooks, because even knowing a lot of the stuff I listen to uses what they call anachronistic language, they do not use words that can be considered overtly racist or hateful. So they'll change minor things like that and do their very best, in my opinion successfully, to still maintain the original spirit of the story. And when I say that, I'm talking about like the cosmic horror and stuff. You know, like you won't ever hear the N-word, but what you will hear is like you know, the backward swamp folk. But you know, because that can literally apply to any race or person. You know. And I find it way more palatable. I'll say it like that, because there are certain stories that H.P. Lovecraft wrote that are just like the Call of Cthulhu is a good example. Like there's a whole paragraph in that story that is just straight up hateful racism, and you can leave that entire paragraph out, and it does not hurt the story at all. And I'll be the first person to say that you should not judge the past with today's lens when you're looking at things like literature and stuff like that. But there are certain points where it is absolutely okay to look at that and say, that is not right and unnecessary. And it is perfectly fine to then not do that. You know? To leave that shit out. But then you have the stuff from the history that is groundbreaking and was so far ahead of its time, like Shakespeare's Othello. And Shakespeare's Othello, if I'm not mistaken, Othello is clearly written to be a black man. And at the time, that was fucking unheard of. A black European king? Yeah, like that was absolutely unheard of. And I don't know much about, that's about as much as I know about the play Othello. But, because I was never really a big Shakespeare guy, I got big into Macbeth because of my heritage, you know, coming from a Celtic prehistory, anything that deals with Celtic stuff, ancient Ireland, ancient Scotland, or, you know, ancient Nordic, I'm all about that shit. I read about it, and I study it, and I love the history. Hell, I worship the gods of my ancestors, you know? But, at the same time, so yeah, I never really got into like the breadth of Shakespeare's work, because I've always thought Shakespeare was a little aggrandized. Like, he's not the only motherfucker to ever write a play. I'll just say it like that. What Shakespeare was really good at was the way he used language. He invented a lot of sayings, like out of thin air. If you ever wonder where that came from, that's Shakespeare. Shakespeare wrote that as if out of thin air when he was describing Hamlet's father's ghost, and then the spectre that appeared as if out of thin air. But the problem with Shakespeare is, and yes, I said problem. The thing about Shakespeare is his writing, even for his time, was overly wordy and overly complicated. Like how he uses that old English pantomime. That is not how people talked at that time. That was very anachronistic for his time. People spoke, at the time of Shakespeare, their form of language was closer to what me and you would recognize. So, you know, and people kind of called him out on that. It's like you're being obtuse with your language on purpose. You know, you're being verbose and overly complicated. And that's generally my view of Shakespeare altogether. Overly verbose and complicated. He made his shit hard to read on purpose. Like, for me, I like stuff like Beowulf, the Havamal, the Poetic Edda, the whole thing, you know. It uses Old English, but it's written plainly. What do you mean by that? Like, instead of saying, you know, thou shouldst goeth forth and... No, it's, they write it like, thou go and do. You know, it's plainly written. Yeah, well, like Shakespeare would say, thou goest forth, plainly written would be, thou should go forth. Like, that's easier, that's way easier to understand, and that's what I mean by Shakespeare's he needlessly complicates the use of the language. There's also, I also heard that Shakespeare wrote, or he penned, the King James Version of the Bible, which is why it's written the way it is. Because it suffers the same problem. That's why I don't like reading the Bible. I have read the Bible. I don't agree with it. I think my issue with the Bible is how malleable their God character is. It's like the New Testament and the Old Testament are written about two different gods. But you're supposed to take it just for granted that the God character in the King James Bible is always the good guy. But like, if you read that story without the if you read the King James Bible without the proselytation that it's supposed to be, I think I'm using that word. I think I'm using that correctly. Like when you go to church, the act of being churched, you know, preached at, if you take it without that, then the God character in the Bible reads as a bad guy. He is cruel, mean, jealous, hateful, like all the negative qualities that we're not supposed to exhibit as humans. God exhibits on a regular, the Christian God exhibits on a regular basis. I mean, he tells a guy to kill his own son just to prove that he loves God more than his family. Like that's fucking mental torture. That's the kind of shit that, you know, people in terrible relationships do to each other. You know, that's why. And you're talking to somebody who was this close to going to seminary and was almost a Southern Baptist. I was ordained. I was one but not the other. Like, I didn't go to seminary to get my license, but I was already ordained to minister by the Southern Missionary Baptist Association of Mississippi, which, like, underwrote, I forget what, it's not non-denominational, it's all the old, it's like the fucking old, rich, racist white men. It's where they go to church. It's not evangelical. It's all like Southern and Missionary Baptist. Because I did not, like, the dude that was my mentor was not. He was not a racist dude. He was very, and he was only like in his like early 30s. Real cool dude. I'm not gonna tell you his name, but I considered him a friend and still do. It's just I'm not a Christian anymore. But so anyway, getting back to it. I went to a Missionary Baptist Association meeting, and the things I heard, I'll tell you what, the things I heard. Alright, so we're going to get spicy, okay? Now I want you to understand these do not represent my views, nor am I going to name names of people who told me these things. I'm just going to tell you, this is what I heard. Mainly because I don't remember the old dude's name. But I'm not going to tell you the names that I do remember because I'm not out here trying to dox anyone. But anyway, me. Kroms, what's up? Oh, my man just hit 21. That's what's up. I know it's not in the chat. He hit me up over Discord. It's my homeboy, Help Me, who would normally play Xenoverse with me. He's not watching today because today's his 21st birthday. So he's out there living it up. Man, I'm happy for you, dude. If you watch this later, happy birthday, bro. The Conclave, bro. Happy birthday. Just remember one thing. What I was told when I went out to celebrate my 21st birthday. You cannot fix in 5 minutes everything that you can fuck up in 5 minutes. So keep that on your mind. So, moving on. I don't even know if I want to repeat this shit, to be honest with you. I'm just going to say they told me some shit that made my fucking skin crawl. And I might tell you about it later on after I talk to Rachel because she knows she's more about legal stuff than I am. But depending on what she says, I've got some fucking stories I can tell you, homie. Shit that you may have heard it before, and if you haven't, it's going to make you fucking nauseous. So I need to talk to her about that. Might be its own stream. That might. Story time with Lord Joshua. All kinds of trigger warnings and shit. Like, look, I'm gonna tell you shit that's gonna straight up turn your fucking skin cold. So, there's a reason I'm not a Christian. There's a bunch of reasons I'm not a Christian, but it all ultimately goes is I saw behind the curtain, and what I saw keeps me awake at night. So, just leave it there. Take medication to deal with some of this shit. Anyway. What's down here? I'm gonna find out. I hear Blade howling. Conan's god, Krom. If you watch the intro of the video, it explains who Krom is. Fast and dirty, he's the mountain god of the barbarians. Think of him as like a deity a dwarf would worship in Dungeons and Dragons. If you ever want to play Dungeons and Dragons, that's almost directly based off of the world of Conan. Check out the world of, I think it's called Red Sun. Or Dark Sun. Dark Sun. Except for the fact that they have the D&D, you can't copy something 100%, so you have to show, I got caught. I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. I'm dead. I cannot believe I survived. So there's a lot of situations where Conan survives by the skin of his teeth. So that's actually that's right along the theme of what we're doing. Let's go. got last thing. Merchant. He seems to make his way around here. Conan spent most of his time on his feet. He was actually an accomplished fighter from back on the horse. The people that he comes from, the Sumerians, the way they're described in Robert E. Howard's fiction, is they're kind of like, think of them how you would think of in the movie it shows a lot of desert and stuff like that, but that's because he's taken away from his homeland, which is where the very beginning of the movie takes place, where it's like cold, snowy, and mountainy. They're kind of like what you would see in like the northern, like the very top of the British Isles, Scotland, and I guess to a lesser extent, yeah, they're like proto-Celts basically. As having bronze skin because when he gets taken as a child, he gets taken like halfway across the fucking war, halfway across the known world. He's made to be a pit fighter as a slave in a kind of like they're gladiators kind of, but it's not this like Roman Colosseum shit. No, it's like a 12-foot deep square hole that they just. It's like, you know, like 10 feet across. And they just fucking kick them down in it and make them fight. If they don't fight, they start poking them with spears and shit. And that's how Conan learns to fight. That's why he's such a vicious warrior. Like, because he's good at it, just naturally. So the dude that owns him winds up like fucking taking him all over the place, getting him all these instructors from all over the world. Like, he trains under a samurai for a little bit. It's crazy. So by the time he wins his freedom, he's fucking like the most dangerous man walking the earth, practically. And he goes on to live this life of fucking just absolute havoc and hell raising until he ultimately, like when he finally picks a cause to fight for, it's for the liberation of Aquilonia. He winds up becoming the king himself by sheer strength, which is kind of, like I said, like the dude who designed Elden Ring, Miyazaki, he had to have read some of Robert E. Howard stuff, because Hoaraloo is fucking Conan. Like, the tale of Hoaraloo is practically Conan's tale, just without the queen part. With him being a noble warrior who led the people and all that good stuff, that's like his tale is practically almost identical to Conan's. Your tale is very reminiscent of the Trials of Odin, or the tale of the character, I should say, the character we play. It's very reminiscent of the Trials of Odin. World Tree. I keep hitting jump instead of interact. I could just get off the fucking horse, but no, not me. I gotta make this complicated. Realistic. I don't think I could punch a bird to death. I mean, given the right circumstances, yes. But if I was to just walk up on a bird that was like unafraid of me, like say a goose. If I just walk up and took a swing at a goose, if I did connect, I don't think I'd kill it. And secondly, I'm pretty sure that thing would tear me the fuck up afterwards. Like, goose are notoriously rough creatures. Alright, I'm gonna get this save point and then go back and talk to Cat, because I realized I forgot to do that. Probably gonna have to get the cestices, so that way I can use my bare hand. Because there are plenty of times where Conan just straight up beat shit to death, and the only way I can do that in this game is with cestices. So when I get the full ones and just the leather gloves that let you fight and do like realistic damage, I'll probably have that in my left hand, so that way I can still look like I'm just rocking a fucking broadsword. There's all these things hanging in the waist.
Welcome, dear customer. Yes, right this way. Right this way. Welcome, valued customer. Come, trade in our wandering emporium. Please, buy something. I'm hungry. I've been hungry so long. Please?
Remember, people don't die natural deaths in this world. Talk to the merchant about Blade. We'll talk to Kenneth Haight about Fortnite. You can talk to the merchant first, just because that's a quick one and done type thing. Talk, snap, done. Literally. But before I go talk to Blade, I'm gonna go talk to Kenneth Haight. We'll do Haight Fort. Fort Haight.
Ah, it's always a pleasure.
Two of those.
Goodbye. Nice to do business. What is it? Still going to purchase? The howl of a wolf. In the Mistwood. I suppose he must still be skulking about. I know. Why not meet him for yourself? Next time you hear the wolves howl, make this signal right under the source. Don't fret. There is nothing to fear. I just have an inkling the two of you might hit it off. There are others of my people who yet survive in these lands. If the mood takes you when you meet one, then offer them some trade, won't you? My people, wanderers all have long been spurned by the grace of gold, which is why we cannot settle, but instead are forced into this pitiful, unceasing journey. But thanks to that, things are not so different for us now, though the Elden Ring is shattered. I think this makes us kindred spirits of sorts. Your people, the Tarnished, and mine. Goodbye for now.
That is good to know. I was gonna say, because the reason I'm going with Wild Strikes, and there's like everything I'm trying to do with this character has a little bit of a thematic flair to it, because that's what Conan would do when he was in dire straits. He would just go berserk, like and just start swinging as fast and as hard as he could. And just about every time he's had to go down that road, it worked. Just go into like a barbarian berserker rage. Checking inventory. Picked up a bunch of shit. I'm trying to level up. Trying to get strength, dex, and strength, dex, health, and stamina all up to 20. Reach the fuck out! Yeah. Just gain as many levels as I can real quick. Hey, Bobby. What people's here to say thank you. Hey, good man. Oh, I'm streaming. Oh, he was a good boy taking a nap, though. Do you need to go potty? I guess I gotta go take him outside the potty, guys. I'm gonna do an ad reel. Y'all hang out. And we'll be right back with more Gamers Conclave, y'all. We'll be back. I'm gonna go let him out. wasn't too long. I went ahead and decided to use the bathroom myself. Oh, he wants the window open. No, we're not going to do the window today, buddy. I don't want you to just start barking randomly for no reason. I have no willpower against you, you know that, Diggle? I cannot tell you no. Physically don't have the ability. And I'm going to regret this. I know I am. Please don't prove me. Please prove me wrong. Here you go. All right. This is what it's like when you're hard-headed. Elbows poking me in my stomach because I'm chubby. I'm like a dumbass. I'm not wearing a belt on the pants under my tunic. So they're like sagging and they're getting caught and it's uncomfortable. And I nicked myself shaving today. And I know you're like, oh, I don't see anything on your face because I wasn't shaving my face when I nicked myself. Yeah. So just sitting in general is not entirely comfortable right now. I still didn't level up. You see that? I'm just trying to throw these fucking souls away. Rune souls. We've been calling them souls for so long now. Queen Rachel was talking about Sekiro last night. She was like, this game looks cool. I'm like, yeah. Looks cool. So you might see some Sekiro to figure out how to do like a warrior paint job that the samurai would do. Or something. Put my own flair on it. Let's see here. Right here, yeah? So we're gonna go to the Third Church in America. Oh, I didn't mix a Wondrous Physic. I need to do that. Stamina. I'm going to make my Wondrous Physic into like Berserker juice. So that way I can hit get that shit and go berserk like fucking Conan would. And like combine that with wild strikes. So if I get put in what they call dire straits, starts do my best Arnold impression. Start swinging my sword. If you want some good Arnold screaming, Conan's got you covered. Still trying to debate if it's okay for me to make special arrows, like magic arrows, like flaming arrows, absolutely. I don't ever recall Conan using, like, I don't think he ever had, like, a magic bow or a, I don't ever recall anything like that.
Is anybody there? Someone who might be interested in rescuing the servant to the true order and celebrated repudiator of the false. Oh, hello? Is anybody there? Someone who might be interested in rescuing the great Kenneth Fight, servant to the true order and celebrated repudiator. Oh, grant me succor. Rescuing the great Kenneth Height, servant to the true order and celebrated repudiator of the false. Oh, Erdtree, grant me succor. Hello? Is anybody there? Someone who might be interested in rescuing the great Kenneth Height, servant to the true order and celebrated repudiator of the false. Oh, Erdtree, grant me succor.
I could hear your caterwauling from a mile away.
Hello?
I am Conan.
Is anybody
What
there?
troubles you?
You've come to lend me your aid, have you? Well, that's very kind, but, no. No, the help is very much appreciated, even from a tarnished. Despite appearances, nobility is no prerequisite to serving the true order. You might have heard of me, Kenneth Height. Next in line is the rightful ruler of Limgrave, young Tarnished. I would have a boon of you. I want you to take back my fort. It lies to the south, beyond the Mistwood. A knight commander from Stormvale took it. A fool! And plumb mad to boot. Simply obsessed with blood. What are you waiting for? But my fort lies to... Oh, I see. What what are you waiting? My fort lying... Oh,
I
I
would know
see.
what you offer for this
You wish to know
service.
the reward? Fret not. The great Kenneth Height is known for his considerable largesse. The celebrations will be lavish indeed upon the dawn of my fort's retrieval. Yes. Now, allow me to furnish you with a little advice. I would take great care to avoid Godric's tarnished hunts were I in your shoes. That depraved lot are obsessed with sacrificing tarnished like you for the sake of grafting. Honestly, Godric's nothing more than a jumped-up country bumpkin. Lord? Oh, don't make me laugh. First, he hid himself amongst the womenfolk to flee the capital, then hid from Radahn in that castle. Then he insulted Melania, lost to her in battle, only to lick her boots rather than die like a man. Has he no shame, the big girl's blouse? And to think, he's the blood of Godfrey, last of the golden lineage. Though you almost wouldn't know it to look at him. Yeah, I almost feel sorry for the chap the more I think of it.
Thing is, there's a story. I can't remember. It's not Phoenix on the Sword. It's a different one. But those giant bat creatures are almost identical to something that attacks Conan and his people. And don't get me wrong when I talk about Conan being gruff. He's a likable guy. He's not He's not like just an asshole for being the sake of an asshole. He barely speaks, and he kind of follows the old thing. You know, if you don't have something, not necessarily if you don't have something nice to say, but if you don't have something that needs to be said, like speak useful words or none at all, as it says in the Hyborean. I'm gonna go fill my water up, because I forgot to do that when I took him out. So. Oh, you're good. Don't worry. I love being on a well. It can be a little inconvenient when the power goes out. But you know, we have solutions for that. But the taste of groundwater compared to city water, it's incredible. Like when I drink city water now, if I go to one of my friend's house who has city water and doesn't have it filtered, like drinking water straight out the tap, you can taste the fucking chemicals in it. Like we drink nothing but purified well water. We do buy bottled water. I know you've seen me use it for filling stuff up, for refilling my cup there from time to time. But the water out of the tap here, it tastes so good. You're like, water's not supposed to have a taste. It's like that's just the thing. It tastes like water is supposed to taste. Which water does have a taste. It's pure. Is what it tastes like. It tastes like pure water. And if you've never had it, if all you've ever known is bottled water and city water, it's very nice. Who knows? Or car drove by slowly or something. How dare they? The audacity. I need to talk to Blade. So, that's the easy way. Probably my neighbor getting home. Like across the street, not next door. Cool dude. I think he's a barista. I'm not sure. Tall.
Who goes there?
I'm
Carly
Conan,
sent you, did he?
Samaritan.
Ever the bloody busybody. Maybe to him you don't seem so strange. The name's Blythe. I'm looking for a man who goes by Darrowell. He fled somewhere nearby. Or so I've heard. Come tell me if you find him before I do. I can offer you ample reward.
Darwell.
Darrowell is nothing but a traitor, and in need of a fitting end to his tale. Darrowell is not and in need of a fitting.
If I encounter this man, I will tell you. Traitors should be shown. Explode into a full-size repair. think they put those pumpkin head things on them because they have madness. Or something like that. Say, we're still getting used to this two-handed slow attacking weapon. So those guys are just going to be a pain in the ass for me. about this game is it doesn't have like a uniform fall distance. It seems like some falls in certain places hurt you more than falling in others, and that is a little aggravating. I'm not gonna lie. Fuck's sake. I know there's a way to get down here, I just can't fucking remember how to do it. get it, don't worry. This is the kind of shit Conan would do with regular bases. Monsters like this. Dude, when I first started playing this game, I had a hard time even getting near these things. This shit with tentacles freaks me out. Best Conan voice. That's what he sounds like whenever in all the audio books. You just got this really gruff, purposeful way of speaking. That's what you use the gold poop for. Gotcha. Merchant. Here.
What do you need? I don't want any trouble.
Excuse me. Oh, take it. I almost went by the broadsword and use it, but Conan used a Hyborean great
Be on your way then.
realistic version of Beowulf. I wanted to start a whole new character because I knew it was going to be like playing this game for the first time all over again. Because I'm so far past all this in my first character, I don't fucking remember how to get down, how to do things anymore. I know you're supposed to get to that platform, but I can't remember how you're supposed to get to that platform. Meant to be kind of an interpretation of cannibalism. Cave-dwelling people. The Picts are often thought to be the people that inhabited the British Isles and all that before the expansions of the Roman Empire or the Vikings or any of them. They were the very first people to be here. They were known to be a very earthy, primitive, warlike people who, so this is how you get down. Okay. Yeah, if you didn't know, though if you're playing Elden Ring still, those things act as both jump points, but soft falls as well. That is an actual Newman. Same race as Queen Marika. They're alien to this world. To Conan, which is something else in my way. There's a back way into the stranded graveyard? Huh. I don't think I've ever found this before. Here's the cave. Assholes. Beat up. Is that it? There goes the cave. It's gotta be it. I just missed it. Okay. Place to be, I suppose. Oh yeah, I just didn't go there. Fights a lot of Neanderthal-like people that these beastmen kind of fill the role for demi-humans. Oh no! That wasn't a bad oh no. Let's just say and look at like, oh no, look at the time. At the 3-hour mark, look at that. I'm gonna go for a little bit longer. Queen Rachel's running late from work today, so not that's got anything to do. She doesn't mind the streaming. She sometimes gets on stream with me, as you know. As well, you know. It's just, when she comes home, I like to devote my time to her right when she gets home.
It hurts.
God, what happened to you?
Oh, what are you doing here? You must leave this place at once.
Cave.
They'll rush in and beat you to a pulp. Oh, you'll end up just like me. Oh, you must leave this place at once. They'll rush in and beat you to a pulp. Oh, you'll end up just like me.
I don't think so, Bob. thank you very much for joining me this evening. I hope you've had as much fun watching as I've had playing. I hope to see you all again very soon. I'll either be back on tonight, or I might stream tomorrow. Normally I wouldn't stream tomorrow, but I'm feeling this Conan build. This is a lot of fun to me. I'm going to keep playing. I promise I won't progress too far off of the stream. You guys have a wonderful evening. Like I said, I'll either be back later tonight or tomorrow around about 3 p.m. Yeah. You guys take it easy. We'll see you then.